What's going on, guys? I'm here today with First Read Fantasy for my top 5 Dynasty buys that I have right now. Guys, I'm targeting in my leagues. Let's just get straight into it. We're going to start with Breece Hall as my first Dynasty buy. Only 24-year-old, the young Jet running back, still has a lot of gas in the tank. I think kind of a lot of negative energy that's surrounding the Jets organization, and Breece Hall specifically has gotten a little bit out of hand. He's an elite pass catcher. Certainly can get a little more efficient on the ground, but that's just kind of how opportunities come and go. This Jets team hasn't necessarily had the best offensive line, but he is elite out of the backfield. 171 targets in the past 2 seasons, and when we see who's coming into towns, it's Justin Fields. Now, ordinarily, I'd say I don't love Fields as a passer, but he is known to check down to running backs. He has one of the highest check down rates in the league, so that's something that I think Breece Hall can target and use to kind of boost his fantasy value. Like I said, he already had 171 targets in the past 2 seasons. I don't see a reason for that to change. He's the best pass catcher in this room in New York, so I'm not going to fear Braylon Allen or what he could do. Could have some positive TD regression. He only had 5 rushing touchdowns last season. I certainly could see that number going higher. Yes, Justin Fields may shark some of that at the goal line, but I'm projecting this guy to be a fantasy winner. He's a big-time playmaker, finishes RB2 2 years ago. This past season, RB16, but there's a lot of reasons why we could dive into why the Jets organization didn't necessarily perform or do what they were supposed to do. Now, outside of year one where he had the ACL injury, he's been relatively healthy, and he provides a lot of boom weeks, multiple 20-point games last year. Over 3 of those, he averaged 15.6 points in PPR league. So he's a guy that I'm going to target. He's still 24 years old. Lots left to give in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and he's going to be a guy that I think can provide a ton of value going forward, and he should be someone that we're targeting in our Dynasty leagues. Right now, RB10 over on KTC, that to me sounds like something we should take advantage of. I think that that's just a little bit too low given the names around him. He should probably be somewhere comfortably in that top 7, in my opinion. So I'm going to go after Breece Hall if I can. So go send an offer in your league. Now let's jump to my next buy, and it's going to stay at the running back position. And let's talk about Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard is a guy who signed a new contract coming after that big year last year where he had over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, averaged almost 5 yards per carry. Got him that new contract. He got paid. This is a guy that I'm chasing because he is absolutely so cheap. Currently RB21 over on Keep Trade Cut. He's only 26, so he has certainly 2 to 3 years left of fantasy production he could provide. And when we look at what you have to pay, it's not that much. It's only going to cost you a second-round pick or something around that to go and get him if he's available on the market. And in my opinion, that's something you should absolutely do. What we've seen over the last several years is these veteran running backs who are worth a second, they typically maintain that value going forward. I mean, how many years has Aaron Jones or James Conner, are these guys been worth a second round pick midway through the year or the following year after a solid year? So that's something I'm going to chase. I think the value is really insulated. He provides a ton of upside going forward. I mean, this past year, he was RB 15 and half PPR. But in my opinion, I think it could go higher than that. I mean, he had a ton of production. This offensive line in Carolina is one that's solid, not necessarily great, but it's one of the most expensive offensive lines in the entire league, if not the most expensive, I believe. So that's something he can target and he can use to his advantage. I mean, last season alone, he averaged 16.1 points per game. That is a ton for a running back that you can get relatively cheap. I mean, the Carolina Panthers, that offense isn't going to scare you, but what we know from seeing them last year and the years before that is they want to run the ball. And I think that trend is going to continue. Yes, Bryce Young could certainly elevate the offense and move forward. Ted McMillan comes to town. Maybe that's going to help open up the box and provide more opportunities for Chuba Hubbard to gash some of these teams. Because again, having almost 1,200 yards last season, kind of still splitting the workload, he's the guy going forward. This is going to be his backfield. So there's a lot to like about Chuba Hubbard. And for me, he is one of those guys where if I need an RB2 or maybe an RB3 to kind of step in and fill a role for me, if I have a void in my backfield for my fantasy team, I'm absolutely targeting Chuba Hubbard. He's one of the cheaper buys you can go get right now, and he's going to provide a ton of fantasy upside for you going forward. But let's get to our next buy, guys, and that's going to be Calvin Ridley. I think this is one that's going to be a cheap buy, and not necessarily everyone's going to agree with this. He's an older player. Yes, You're going to have to deal with that, but he still has a ton of fresh legs, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, he's 30, but he had the suspension year. He's had some injuries in the past, but this offense in Tennessee is one that I see getting better with Cam Ward coming to town. He's easily the number one in this wide receiver room. He has sneaky value for this coming season, and he had sneaky value last year too. Finishes wide receiver 27. No, not necessarily the best finish, but that is something that you could use when we're talking about a guy to be your wide receiver 3. And this offense, like I said, I think is going to get better. I mean, last year he was 6th in the league among wide receivers of targets over 20 yards. And I think we could all agree that the quarterback play in Tennessee was frankly terrible. And I think Cam Ward is better than anyone that was there last year. And again, I think he can elevate this offense. And he's another one of those guys that's real cheap. You could probably get him for a late second. But I think it's even cheaper than that. I think you could offer a random third and get him coming back to you. Or maybe there's a rookie you're not necessarily sold on that you drafted, and you could trade him for Calvin Ridley. That's going to absolutely impact your roster this season and help you win a championship. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, last year he averaged 11.7 points in a bad offense. And I think that the quarterback play is going to be better. And there's a world where that number ticks up. Maybe he averages 14 or 15 points a game. It's not that crazy to think about. I mean, he was a very high-level asset before we had the gambling issues and before the injuries. But enough of that. I mean, the touchdowns last year, he only had 4. If he gets a slight uptick in that, that's going to cause him to shoot up. And he had 120 targets last year. I don't see anybody in this wide receiver room taking command or going over him. So he's definitely going to be the guy. And ordinarily, you might say, well, Matt, what do you think about the rookie quarterback coming into town? I'm not necessarily worried. And I think that kind of folds into my next buy, and that's going to be Cam Ward. I think these pair off of each other. Cam Ward is a guy that I think right now is as cheap as he could be going forward. QB 16 over on Keep Trade Cut. That Titans defense last year was sneaky, so that might keep them in games. That division may be up for grab. We've seen inconsistency from the Texans. The Jags are the Jags. So there's a world where maybe they compete and they find a way to kind of maybe find themselves in play for the division. We'll see what happens in Indianapolis too, but I think that this team made heavy investments into the offense with Cam Ward, drafted all sorts of playmakers for him to use. And what we know about Cam Ward is every step of the way, he got better, whether it was at Incarnate Ward or Washington State, Miami. He elevated his game and he elevated the program. And what we've seen from the clips, yes, I know they're OTA clips, but this guy is commanding the offense, absolutely committed. He's an elite competitor. I love him. If Coach were here, he would be screaming that and echoing it too. And like I said, this might be the chance to buy him at possibly his lowest value. Yes, he's a top pick in most Superflex drafts at the beginning of the first round, but I do think that you might be able to capitalize and use some other quarterbacks to shift around and go get him if you can. Because again, we're talking about a young guy who could find his way onto a roster and elevate his game and go forward. He's a sneaky good athlete too. So there's some possibility for rushing upside. No, it's not going to be the level of Jaden Daniels necessarily, but it's kind of like Herbert, where when he gets out in space, he makes a play and finds a way to get it done. And I think that's something that Cam Ward can use going forward at the next level here in the NFL. And not to mention, he's an elite RPO reader. Not going to be running the ball like Jaden Daniels per se, but if you go back and watch his tape at Miami, he is fantastic in RPO schemes. And I know Coach would echo that, and he said it all last year as a big-time Miami fan, but I really do think that he's going to have a way to change this offense and really kind of push them to the next level. I think there's a good chance they could compete. Like I said, this defense was sneaky good, giving up the fewest points in the NFL this past season, and Cam Ward was surrounded by talent. Not necessarily going to be incredibly great talent, but as players to give him the opportunity to try and improve this Titans roster, which again, if they get in any sort of future playmaker added to this team, his value is just going to shoot up. So I think now is the time to buy Cam Ward if you can. Kind of a lot of fade on him right now. So I think it's a really good opportunity to go check with your manager in your league to see what he thinks about Cam Ward. Maybe you get the opportunity to go get him. But let's just jump to my last buy here, guys. Staying at the quarterback position, it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. And a lot of the similar arguments are going to be made here with J.J. McCarthy. We haven't seen it, and I understand it. I was very high on him in the draft process prior to him getting selected by the Vikings. But this is one where you're going to have to trust the process. You're going to have to trust the coach, and you're going to have to trust the weapons. I think J.J. McCarthy was someone that was very efficient and productive at Michigan. No, it didn't necessarily lead to a ton of passing production. But if you go back and watch the tape, he gets it done. And I think that's what he needs to do in this O'Connell system. We've seen Kirk Cousins do it. We've seen Sam Darnold do it. If Sam Darnold can bounce back and resurrect his career and go get a big time contract that he just did with the Seahawks, why can't JJ McCarthy do it? And I think he can. And again, like I said, you're trusting the weapons with Minnesota. We've talked about a guy that's going to have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, and again, a fantastic head coach. So there's a lot to like about a quarterback that's stuck in Minnesota. And for me, that's JJ McCarthy. He's a big time buy for me. And I think this is again someone that might be at his lowest value for the next several years. Because again, if he hits, and this is a high risk, high reward play, but if he hits, his value is going to be the lowest it is ever right now. Because going forward, he's going to be attached to those weapons that I just listed off. And there is a ton of value in that. Again, Sam Darnold was QB9 last year. So I think there's a world where JJ McCarthy can kind of surprise and get into that top 12, maybe just on the outside. But going forward, I think the future is bright for the young kid in Minnesota. He's a decent athlete too, has the ability to make some plays on the run. Not going to do it a ton, but again, he's so efficient and so precise with his passes that I really do think that he's got the ability to change this Minnesota offense and kind of get them a little bit better than they were last year with Sam Darnold. But we will certainly have to see. Like I said, I understand the risk with that one, but these are my top 5 dynasty buys that I have right now. So let me know in the comments who you're buying or what your thoughts are on each of these players. Be sure to subscribe to First Read Fantasy. We've got all sorts of content, tons of stuff coming out. We'll catch you next time.